Could everybody have a seat, please? Could everybody please have a seat? It is 8:30. It's time to get started. Can everybody please have a seat? I need everybody to sit down, please. We've got a tight hour, and I don't want to lose a minute of it. I need everybody in a seat, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. All right, there is such great energy room, and I love looking around and seeing everybody here, especially after coming off of the rally today in DC. I mean, what a day for love and solidarity, and it's so great that we're ending here. So I just want to point out, not only do we have this amazing group here, we've got another more than 200 people live streaming, and if any of you have people who want to be on the live stream or want to be here but couldn't make it, we're going to have the link to this recording posted tomorrow afternoon, so feel free to log in at your leisure. Before we kick off, I just do want to say a huge thank you to our Rabbi Jason Fruithandler and to our president, Dr. Paul Chaskis, and to the team that managed to pull this together in record time. Like I said when I started, we do have a very limited amount of time. Yeah. All right, can everyone hear? I'm not used to people not being able to hear me. All right, thank you to Rabbi Fruithandler, thank you to Paul Chaskis and the team for getting this together. Last housekeeping note before we get started, please silence your cell phones. And for those of you who are visiting us here at the Woodbury Jewish Center, if you can please note the exits around here. Okay, like I said, we've got a very tight hour, so we want to make the most of it. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bassem Eid. Bassem is a Jerusalem-based political analyst, human rights pioneer, and expert commentator on Arab and Palestinian affairs. He was born in the Jordanian-occupied Old City in East Jerusalem, whose place of residence became the United Nations Refugee Works Agency, UNRWA, refugee camp of Shuafat. He rose to prominence during the first Intifada, the Palestinian uprising, and was a senior field researcher for B'Tselem, the Israel Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories. In 1996, he founded the Jerusalem-based Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group. In 2016, he assumed the role of chairman of the Center for Near East Policy Research. Bassem publicly condemned the widespread murder of Palestinian dissidents, often for reasons unrelated to the Intifada. In 1995, following his report about the Palestinian Preventive Security Force Service, otherwise known as the PSF, he came under attack by some Palestinian leaders for revealing human rights violations committed by the Palestinian Authority, otherwise known as the PA. Arrested by Arafat's Presidential Guard, Force 17, he was released after 25 hours following widespread international condemnation. Bassem Eid has spent 26 years researching UNRWA policies and has written extensively on the subject of UNRWA reform and is an outspoken critic of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, BDS, for those of it who know it so well. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Bassem Eid.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Wendy, for the invitation. And I would like to thank each of you for coming and joining us this evening. As you might know, situation right now is completely upside down. And I think that after the 7th of October, the Hamas almost proves to the world that they are a genocidal movement. They also proves to the world that they are a brutal, barbaric terrorist organization. Unfortunately, it takes time for the international community to realize the facts on the ground towards the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Hamas used to be considered as a justice and relief organization by the Europeans mainly. But now, I hope that the Europeans almost changed their minds towards the Hamas, and probably very soon, most of the European countries are going to adopt laws considering Hamas as a terrorist organization. I want to tell you a story which happened 3 years ago. I have a friend who is living in a village in the north of Gaza, which called Beit Hanun. His name is Yusuf, and he has 6 children. He is working in a bakery in the Gaza city, 12 hours a day in $2.50. 12 hours a day, working in $2.50. One day he called me and he said, Bassem, do you know what's happened last night? I said, no, what's really happened? He said, 4 people from the Hamas came to my house and they told me that they are going to dig a tunnel under my house. And it's not going to be free. They are going to pay me monthly $50. I said, then what was your answer? He said, my answer was, please try to dig 4 tunnels in terms to give me $200 a month. So the people in the north of Gaza knows very well that they are living above stores of gunpowder. People know that very well. And when Israel told the people in the north of Gaza to flee to the south of Gaza, in my opinion, it is for their safety. Because Israel knows exactly where are the tunnels and what these tunnels are full of. The Hamas is not care about the people. In the last 17 years, since the Hamas ruling the Gaza Strip, what the Hamas really provided to his people in the Gaza Strip? They provided misery, poverty, and destruction. That's exactly what the Hamas provided to the 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And now, Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the political office of Hamas, who is staying in the 5-star hotel in Doha in Qatar, 2 weeks ago, he appeared on the TV of Al Jazeera, which is Al Jazeera, by the way, another TV channel which is supporting terror around the world. And what Haniyeh said? Haniyeh said that the Hamas is ready to accept the 2-state solution with East Jerusalem a capital. What? Who is saying that? Haniyeh. But all of the world repeated in the past 2 centuries millions of times, and you, the Hamas, rejected all the time. And you, the Hamas, said that Israel has no right to exist. Israel must have to be erased from the map. Now what's happened to Haniyeh that he is accepting the 2-state solution? That's because Israel right now put the Hamas really in the corner in the Gaza Strip. And the Hamas try to find a kind of solutions to save themselves from this war, which is not going to be ended very soon. The Hamas charter is very well known that Israel has no right to exist. And this is one of the major obstacles towards peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The Israelis said, if we have no right to exist, how you can make peace with us? How we can recognize you while you are denying our existence? 2 weeks ago, the foreign minister of Iran visited Lebanon. What he said in Lebanon, he said that the Hamas is ready to release the hostages in Gaza, and the Hamas will transfer them where? To Tehran in Iran. How you can transfer them to Tehran? But in the meantime, the meaning here of the foreign minister that Iran is going to negotiate Israel about the hostages on behalf of the Palestinians. So where is the Palestinian leadership here? Where is Mahmoud Abbas here? Where is the Palestinian security forces here? How that stupid guy, the foreign minister of Iran, allowed to himself to give such kind of statement? Who is going to transfer the hostages to Tehran? Via the tunnels? So looks like that we, the Palestinians, almost lost the balance here. We lost the balance. And every stupid guy in the world right now can stand up by saying, I can negotiate on behalf of the Palestinians. Now, all of the world is talking about the humanitarian aid. But in the meantime, all of the world is pushing Israel towards a ceasefire. And no one leader around the world is trying to call upon the Hamas to include them, at least, in any ceasefire which can be achieved in the future. They want Israel to calm down, to stop the war, to allow the humanitarian aid to enter from Egypt to Gaza, and the Hamas, in the meantime, will continue shooting rockets towards Israel. How that could be? How that could be? Friends, the people in Gaza almost on a kind of explosion. People will explode one day. And people will start talking one day. And people will start shouting one day. Just recently, some videos came out of Gaza while the people complaining that the Hamas is stealing the whole medicines from the hospitals, that the Hamas is stealing the fuel from the hospitals. And this is why there is no medicines and there is no fuel in those hospitals. The Hamas stolen everything because the Hamas is not care about the people. In the past 16 years, the Hamas succeed to dig 500 kilometers of tunnels under the Gaza Strip. 500 kilometers. But in the meantime, the Hamas never ever tried to build one shelter to their people to protect themselves from any war imposed by the Hamas against Israel. One shelter. And a week ago, a delegation from Hamas went and visited Russia. One of the Hamas leaders gave an interview on one of the Russian channels called Russia Today. It's in Arabic, an Arabic channel. And the interviewer asked him, the Hamas guy, that how it could be that you built 500 kilometers of tunnels and no one shelter for your people. What was the answer? The answer was that we are building those tunnels to protect our fighters from the Israelis. But the responsibility of the people in Gaza is on the United Nations and on the Israeli occupation. The Israeli occupation, yeah. Israel, who should have to build the shelters for the Gazan people to protect themselves from the wars that the Hamas imposing on Israel. Very intelligent answer. And that shows that they are really not care about their people. The statistics which is coming out every day, it's unbelievable. Nobody is counting. Nobody is writing. Nobody is trying to search how many people has been killed or how many people has been injured. The Hamas came to the doctors by saying, when you are receiving 10 dead bodies, you are telling the media that they are 100. This is what the Hamas is doing. Because the Hamas interest is to increase the number. Because when you are increasing the number, then you get much more sympathy from the international community. And of course, that's bring a huge financial aid from the Iranians to the Hamas. Now they are talking about over than 11,000 killed people. I don't believe so. I don't believe that anyone around the world counted them. We remember on the 17th October, when the mistaken rocket falling on the hospital, 2 minutes after, they declared that 500 people has been killed. But later on, we find that they are 170. But we like to exaggerate. We like to exaggerate because this is the way how we can get sympathy from the international community. The UN, in my opinion, can do nothing. Because the main job of the UN is how to create conflicts rather than to solve conflicts. The UN morality is bankrupt, and it's lost its legitimacy and its presence. This is the UN. Imagine if the conflicts around the world will be solved, then all the employees of the UN will be jobless and refugees. So it's not their interest to solve any conflict around the world in terms to guarantee their own income. The Arab countries, or let me say the Arab League, looks like that it becomes as a rehabilitation center for handicapped people. The Arabs can do just nothing. 3 days ago, 12 Arab and Islamic countries met in Saudi Arabia for long day discussing the war on Gaza. What was the results of that summit in Saudi? That the 12 countries decided to increase the humanitarian aid to Gaza. What? I thought that you are going to ask to stop the war in Gaza. Again, humanitarian aid. We almost surviving in the past 75 years on humanitarian aid. Some flour from here, some oil, some rice, some sugar. This is the whole Palestinian-Israeli conflict, by the way. We need a solution here. I am quite sure that there is no solution with the existing of the Hamas. The Hamas must have to be trashed from the map. The Hamas, at the end of this war, should have to come on their knees. I hope that that's really will happen. And I hope that the people in Gaza will start seeing the light very soon. And I hope that Israel is going really to free Gaza from Hamas. That's the most important thing right now. Now, the last message, I want to talk about the so-called pro-Palestinians who are jumping from one campus to another, not only, by the way, in the United States, but also in Europe. Those people used to dance on the October 7th, used to dance on the Jewish massacre, which committed by the Hamas. And they consider it as a Palestinian victory. So my message to them, if the Jewish massacres can be considered as a Palestinian victory in the 21st century, this is the end of humanity. This is the end of humanity. I think that those people found a job forever. Found a job forever. They are sitting in their warm houses in Los Angeles and in New York and talking on behalf of the Palestinians. And the question, whom authorized these people to speak on behalf of the Palestinians? Someone from Bangladesh. Imagine Bangladesh, 140 million people living on 1 kilometer square of land. All Bangladesh. One from Senegal. What these people related to us? What these people really related to us? So these people has their own agenda. They became traitors and agents for a foreign agendas. We know how the Iranians dealing with them. We know how the Turkish are dealing with them. We know how the other Islamic charities around the world are dealing with them. This is how these people getting their funding, and of course, besides some other Jewish millionaires who are supporting their activity. I think that these people has no place among us at all. We shouldn't have even to look to them or to talk to them. We must have to boycott them. We must have to isolate them from the societies, from the campuses, from the schools. Don't pay attention to them. While you are not paying attention to them, that's making them so nervous and so angry. Let us continue keeping them so nervous and so angry. Let me stop right now and probably give you the floor to ask some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Here, why don't you sit over here? Thank you so much for those comments. We have gotten in many, many questions through the registration process, and thank you for everybody who submitted. So let's get right to it. Brian?
So we've tried to take a good cross-section of the many questions that we've received and boiled them down to several topics, and Wendy and I will alternate asking you some of these questions. So the first one is really a two-part question. How has being a peace activist influenced your relationships with your own friends and family, and how do you navigate differing perspectives within your own community and circles?
Sometimes I used to say that in Jericho, where I am living right now in the West Bank, I am feeling much more safe than to be in New York or to be in UCLA. Yeah. Sometimes I used to say that in Jericho, to live in Jericho is much more safe than to be in New York or in the UCLA University in California. I am a person who grown up in a refugee camp for 33 years. I spent over than 28 years of my life searching the violations of human rights for the Palestinians. Started my human rights career with an Israeli organization, B'Tselem, and after the Oslo Accord, I decided to resign from B'Tselem to create a Palestinian organization to deal with the Palestinian Authority violations against Palestinians. Imagine, to create a human rights organization under the Arab regime, it looks like to commit a suicide. So I have a lot of experience. I am living in the heart of the conflict. I am living in the heart of the conflict. And I can realize what is really going around this conflict. In the meantime, we the Palestinians, as everybody knows, have one of the most corrupt leadership in the world. The most corrupt leadership in the world. From Arafat in the past to Mahmoud Abbas in the present. So while you have such kind of a corrupt leadership, I think that we should, the Palestinians, to look for some change here. We, the people, can solve our problems by ourselves. So that's gave me, the huge experience. Since, let's say, probably 10 years, I left the human rights work and I just start focusing about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from a completely different perspective. I am accusing the Palestinians, no doubt about it. I am saying all the time that the bloodshed which is taking place right now in Gaza and in Israel, Hamas is the only responsible one on that. And I wrote a big article in the Newsweek 2 weeks ago with this title. Another article in the Newsweek, I said that Gaza used to be Singapore, but the Hamas turned it into ISIS. And when people try to compare between Hamas and ISIS, I used to say that I think that ISIS is more rational.
The second part to this question, we publicized this event pretty widely, and it was on social media, and we received some comments on it. And this might be a difficult one to hear, although I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard anything like this. We wanted to read a comment to you that we received today on one of the posts and have you respond to it. So the comment said, Bassem Eid is widely known to be a traitor to Palestinians, comparing them to Nazis and speaking against the UN resolution that outlines Palestinians' right of return. He has been sharing the dangerous opinion that Hamas alone is responsible for any bloodshed in Gaza, which is irrefutably false. He is not a humanitarian and does not support his fellow Palestinians in any way. If the person making that comment were here tonight, and we did respond that she should come, that he should come, what would you say to her?
First of all, I will take it as a compliment. First of all, secondly, I think that I am the one who can speak, not on behalf of the Palestinians, but at least to tell everyone about the facts on the ground and what's really going on. Now, that guy who wrote the response, I don't know where he is living, in London or in Paris or in UK. I don't know exactly. But on the other side, I am the one who is living there. I am the one who is in touch with the fellow Palestinians 24 hours. I am living in Jericho, which is completely under the Palestinian Authority jurisdiction. So whatever he is thinking about me, that will never, ever put any limitations on my activities. I will continue running from one campus to another campus, from one country to another country, to tell them what's really going on. Because I believe that the message that I am trying to spread around the world, it probably one day will bring the change that every Palestinian is really looking for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that great answer. I'd like to shift the focus to education for a minute. Can you talk to us about how the Palestinian education system addresses the relationship between Palestine and Israel? What are Palestinian children taught?
See, we have really big problem with the education system and with the textbooks that we are teaching in the schools. I work a lot on this topic. I was several times at the Capitol Hill, and I met a lot of congressmen, by the way, towards the issue of the textbooks and the educational system. I even translated some of the textbooks from Arabic to English, and I gave it to them in terms to make it much easier for them to understand what we are teaching our pupils in the schools towards the Israelis. Unfortunately, I think that the only one who should have to be blamed on the Palestinian education system and the textbooks is Europe. Europe is the one who is supporting financially the education system and the textbooks of the Palestinian Authority. Europe knows that those books are full of anti-Semitism. But this is Europe. Europe is the one who started delivering the anti-Semitism around the world. So Europe looks like that they are feeling so fine with the current Palestinian textbooks and the education system. We try to change it, but unfortunately UNRWA, which is responsible on the most of the schools in the West Bank and in Gaza, they refuse to accept any kind of changes towards the Palestinian textbooks. I want to tell you that 2 years ago, the Abraham's Accord, which has been signed between Israel and United Arab Emirates and the Kingdom of Bahrain and the Kingdom of Morocco. The United Arab Emirates, 1 month after they signed the Abraham's Accord, they changed all the textbooks in their schools and in their universities. Right now, in the United Arab Emirates, you couldn't believe how they teach towards peace, teaching towards coexistence, teaching towards forgiveness. I think that can be a good model to the Palestinians. But unfortunately, no one is scared about it, and no one is trying to change it. On the other side, let us hope that probably this war is going to change even the Palestinian textbooks. If Israel will achieve some, let's say, positive signs in this war, I believe that the textbooks issue will be on the table for the coming negotiations, not only with the Palestinians, but also with the international community.
So what you described going on in UAE is very hopeful. And I understand you're talking about the current textbooks really promoting anti-Semitism. Do the textbooks that are used in Gaza, I don't know if you can answer this, but do they promote popular support of Hamas by the people living in Gaza, by the students in Gaza?
See, it's probably not directly supporting the Hamas, but unfortunately it's full of incitement. It's full of violent issues. Israel not exist, by the way, in the map that they are teaching to the Palestinian pupils. Imagine that we are calling for two-state solution, and Israel is not exist in the maps where we are teaching our pupils there. Something, a little bit confused here, what's going on about the education system. But as I said, let's hope that the time is really coming, and very soon that such kind of textbooks will be changed.
One final question on this topic, and then I'll hand it back to Brian. Given what's happening in the schools in Gaza and the way students are being taught, do you think it is really possible to completely eliminate Hamas?
First of all, I hope that the war is going to eliminate Hamas, not the textbooks, yeah? That's the most important thing here. And let's see. Let's see how this war is going to be ended. No one around the world can give any kind of scenario how the end of this war is going to be. No one, including the Israelis, by the way. I think that it's a little bit early to talk about what's after. Let us wait to see the results of the current war, and after we will see the results, we can start building so many scenarios, what's really going to happen in the near future.
You're not going to get off so easy on what's going to happen after the war, because we will have some more questions for you about that later on. But for now, the next question is really about the media in the U.S. Obviously, we have a very fragmented media here with different channels supporting different views constantly. What are your thoughts in general on the way that the war is being portrayed by the U.S. media? And are there any specific outlets that you consider more reliable than others?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that the media, this is something that I said many years ago, almost lost the ethics of journalism. There is no more ethics of journalism here. Media is mixed with a lot of politics here. The journalists themselves became much more political figures rather than they are journalists. They are trying to impose on us their own political views about what's going on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So the media is biased everywhere, by the way, not on the United States. By the way, in Israel also, media is biased. Forget the Palestinians. Palestinians don't have free media at all. Now, nobody can change that. Nobody can change that. Who can change the attitude and the behavior of the New York Times or the Washington Post, for example? To change an editor, I don't think that will be very helpful. We might get a worse one. So leave the media. I think that people probably don't have any kind of sources here to go and to check and to be reliable sources for the information. Unfortunately, they stuck with the current media. They stuck with the TVs here. They stuck with the social media, which is most of it is a fake, is a big lies over there. So listen, but this is the word, and I think that people sometimes need probably to work a little bit harder in terms to find a more reliable source to lay on it and to take the information from it. But to change the current situation, I believe that it's impossible.
Well, given the damage that's done by misinformation, let's talk a little bit about what's happening on college campuses. So Students for Justice in Palestine is an on-campus college club that conveys the message of the boycott, divest, and sanction movement. They are responsible for, in my opinion, they are responsible for a lot of what we see going on college campuses in an anti-Israel voice. If you could meet with the president of Students for Justice in Palestine from Columbia, from Cornell, from NYU, what would you say to them?
You know, these people, I remember I was, by the way, I was 4 times in South Africa. And I participated there in what they call it, the Israel Apartheid Week. And I once gave an interview for one of the newspapers over there. And the journalist told me that he is going to contact the BDS guy in South Africa to take his response, on what I am saying about the BDS. The BDS guy, the journalist asked him that Mr. Eid said that your movement is harassing them and harassing their economy. What is your response to Mr. Eid? Then the guy from the BDS said, Mr. Eid is right, but this is going to be a short-term suffer, long-term benefit. What is that? You know who told us this slogan? The Arab leaders after the 1948 war. When the Palestinian refugees start moving to the Arab countries said, stop, don't build a house, don't buy a piece of land. It's going to be a short-term suffer, long-term benefit. And almost 75 years went without any kind of benefit. Without any kind of benefit. I think that those people has their own agendas, as I said. I don't think that those people representing the Palestinians in any way. On the other side, every Palestinian knows that the boycott movement is causing damage to the Palestinians much more than it is causing damage to the Jewish people. I remember one of the presidents of Israel 3 years ago went over a visit to the north of the West Bank, to a settlement called Al-Qana, and he met with the Palestinian workers there. Then the Palestinian workers came to the president of Israel saying that the BDS is hurting us more than they are hurting you, the workers. So I don't think that the BDS has any influence on the Palestinians. Still, we have 200,000 Palestinian workers leaving every day from the West Bank, entering inside Israel, working and coming back. 200,000. Beside that number, we have another 50,000 Palestinian workers who are working in the settlements in the West Bank. We are building the houses of the settlers. We are, not the Filipinos, not the Turkish. And we are very proud on that because we want to secure the future of our children. We want to survive. So what the BDS can do? Still, we are building the houses of the settlers in the West Bank. So those people, I don't know, they looks like sometimes like parrots. Nobody is really hearing them. Nobody is interested in their activities. And I don't know how many Palestinians really knows about the BDS. What I know, that we don't have one BDS member in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip. Because the BDS knows if they will come to a refugee camp and asking the people to boycott Israel, people are going to throw shoes on them, because what is the alternative for that? What is the alternative for that? You don't want me, you want me to boycott Israel. Okay, excellent. Imagine that Israel tomorrow will boycott the 200,000 Palestinian workers. Will the BDS provide jobs to us? Will the BDS pay salaries to our workers? Of course not. So these people, are living in their own world, and it is a completely different world than ours.
Carrying on in that same vein, I'm getting from your comments that a lot of this mentality that these students have is based in a lack of knowledge. And I know that you've been traveling to a lot of campuses and talking to people. Do you see pockets of students within these organizations that you believe are pro-Palestinian but are also not anti-Israel?
Really, it's a little bit difficult for me to answer that question because I never try to get into details, when I am talking with these people. I remember that on the 7th of this month, I went to Westchester for college. I think it's called Bersh's College in Westchester. And I saw there about 20 young people demonstrating, against me and against my talk. They didn't enter to the room where I am talking, but they were outside. Then I went outside and they said, listen, what are you doing here? Come inside. We are going to give a very informative information about what is going on in Gaza. Come and learn. Come and understand what's really going on. They refuse. They refuse. They didn't shout. They didn't say anything. They just, standing at the entrance. Then we closed the doors. I gave the lecture for 1 hour. We went out. We didn't find any of them. We didn't find any of them. So I don't think what these people are really thinking. But if you will ask me personally, I am a person who is completely against to be pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. If you are pro-Israeli, be pro-peace, and if you are pro-Palestinian, be pro-peace. I think pro-peace is much better than to try to divide it between Palestinians and the Israelis. Because the main aim right now, the all efforts that we should have to put is how we can really make peace between those two sides. So anyone who can contribute for making peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, he is most welcome. But anyone who is trying to disturb the coming peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, I think that we should have to fight him against his ideology.
I think that everything you just talked about illustrates some of the difficulties that people are having right now. The sides are having a lot of trouble actually speaking with one another. Do you have any advice or talking points to, I don't want to use the word pro-Israel now that you just said what you said, but to Jewish students who are actually trying to engage in meaningful discussions with their counterparts on the other side?
See, I think that dialogue all the time is a very positive thing. I think that we are learning from each other when we have a dialogue. Unfortunately, we are talking about young people here, that it's a little bit difficult for them to understand what an old man like me is telling them. Unfortunately, there are some students who are acting from ideology rather than from principles. And that's here is the problem. When you hate Israel from the ideology that you are carrying, then it will be very difficult for you to recover one day from such kind of disease. But when it comes from principles, let's say, probably this is something that we can talk about it. We can probably reconstruct it. We can probably recover you from it. But unfortunately, this is the ideology. This is the ideology. And that's leading me to Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi Netanyahu used in the past 5 years probably to allow to Qatar in the Gulf to transfer $30 million every month in cash to the Hamas in Gaza. The private jet used to land in Ben Gurion Airport with the Samsonite bags full of cash money, and the Israeli employees used to drive those Samsonite bags to the Erez checkpoint and giving them to the Hamas. In that time, I said in Israel that it probably a quiet, you can buy it by money. But ideology, you will never, ever be able to buy it. And that's exactly what's happening now. That all of that money, which has been transferred to Gaza by Israelis, has been used in the military capability of the Hamas. So ideology, when people acting from ideology, this is a disease. These people became dangerous. Dangerous. Ideology is the negative ideology, let's say. I think that this is something very dangerous.
Okay, I know we've talked about how nobody really knows what's going to happen after the war. But looking at the governing bodies within Palestine, if the Palestinian Authority had the opportunity to be responsible for all of the West Bank and Gaza, do you think they could do it? And if not, do you think there's anybody that could do it?
Towards the Palestinian Authority, I am a person who don't believe that the Palestinian Authority can control 5 chicken. I don't think that when they are talking about after the war in Gaza, I don't think that anyone is trying to think about the Palestinian Authority. Much more, it is a subject, in my opinion, which is related to Israel, related to the Egyptians, of course, related to the Americans. These are the 3 bodies, in my opinion, that they can fix which future should have to be imposed on the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Authority is completely handicapped. No doubt that Abbas is waiting to enter to the Gaza Strip on the Merkava tank to inside the Gaza Strip. But Israel also knows that Abbas couldn't control the Gaza Strip at all from the security point of view. And Israel will never ever allow any country in the world to be responsible on the security of the Gaza Strip. Only Israel is going to be responsible, and other countries probably can be responsible for other civil issues, like the education, like the hospitals, like the cleaning, the stationery, whatever. But the security, Israel, because Israel don't want to be in Gaza. Israel don't want to occupy Gaza, but Israel want to control Gaza. And that's very important. That's very important. So I don't think that the Palestinian Authority right now, in the middle of the discussion, what is after the war in Gaza.
So one follow-up to that. If Israel has to control the security in Gaza, do you think that the Palestinian people would be comfortable accepting peace between Israel and Palestine while Israel is controlling security?
See, first of all, if we will take the West Bank as an example, Israel exists all over the West Bank, all over the West Bank. And looks like that people are very happy with that. People are very happy. On the other side, if you will come today to any ordinary Palestinian in the West Bank and asking him, what are the most three priorities that you are seeking? He will say a job to survive, to secure the education system and the health system for my children. Nobody is talking about settlements. Nobody is talking about the wall. Nobody even talking about the foundation of the Palestinian state, which means that the people, the majority of the Palestinians, almost lost the trust in their own leadership. No one Palestinian in the West Bank believe that Abbas is going to make a state or going to make peace with the Israelis. If any elections will take place tomorrow in the West Bank, believe me that the only ones who is going to vote for Abbas is his two sons and his wife. Because people couldn't believe this person anymore. And on the other side, we are talking about 87 years old man. He stopped thinking. When you talk to him, he start talking about the 30th and the 40th and the 50th. He don't know that we are in the 21st century. He don't know. So with such leader, I don't think that there is any kind of expectation. Israel exists in the West Bank. People are happy that Israel is over there, in my opinion. No one Palestinian in the West Bank want to be under the situation of the Gaza Strip. No one. So, with the Israeli security, I think that it is much more safe.
We have one final question that, Rabbi, how are you?
Sorry to not.
Can you guys hear the rabbi? All right, we will translate. We can make it louder.
He says, hi, everyone, can you hear me?
Okay. So our rabbi would like to ask the last question of the evening, so we will translate.
Yes,
He's so sorry he's not here in person.
He's been watching on live stream and wants to give you a hug.
thank you.
His voice gives hope about how everything could look if we could just find peace in the center. And he's frozen. Yep, we're good. Just to paraphrase quickly, we here have also been mourning the death of innocent Palestinians in Gaza, and the rabbi's question is how And what can the American people do to support the Palestinian people while also maintaining our belief and desire for Israel to be able to defend her people?
Yeah, I am a person who believes that the whole misery and the poverty and the destruction that the Gazan people are living under is the responsibility of the Hamas. So whomever wants to help the Gazan people, you can help them in one way: how to release these people from the Hamas, how to transfer these people from the darkness to the light. This is what the people are really need. This is the support that the people are really looking for. We are not looking for food. We are not looking for anything else. We are looking for dignity, justice, and freedoms. And those three things will never ever happen under the Hamas regime. So, Rabbi, we want your support to release those Palestinians from the Hamas and to release Gaza from the Hamas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Everybody, we just have a couple of comments from our president, Dr. Chaskis, and then we will wrap up for the night.
Thank you, Bassem, for such a thought-provoking program tonight. I just want to thank Brian and Wendy and the entire committee and volunteers for all they did in the last 4 days putting this together, and our office staff. Thank you to the 2nd Precinct for being here, as you always are, and always seeing you here. It makes us feel much better, and to our Black Tie Security and CSS team. And thank you all so much for coming. We hope that this is the beginning of a conversation that can happen here and in the larger community. Please be kind on your way out and try saying hi to someone new. Thank you for joining us tonight in person and to all our live streamers as well. Have a safe night.